Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, where ordinary heroes tell extraordinary stories during unique and never been heard before conversations with your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Hilary's unique listening and way of asking questions results in conversations that aren't usually talked about, so you can create the life that you really want but are afraid you can't really have. We are demonstrating the greatness in the human spirit and creating a world where we all reclaim our birthright of joy, happiness, purpose, and passion. Now, here's your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, and today we have a very special guest. We have Brownell Landrum, who is doing some very cool stuff. I'll just tell you, she's an entrepreneur. She was in corporate America. She's an author of fiction and nonfiction. And we're going to talk about cosmic witching. So I'm going to let her tell you about that when we get there. But yeah, if you want to know about cosmic witching, you're in the right place. Welcome, Brownell.
Thanks. Yeah, let's get real.
Yeah, and normally we don't talk about cosmic wishing, so I think this is very interesting. Well, why don't you give us a little background? You know what? I need to do this first. I wasn't going to, but it's on my heart. So my mom is struggling right now. We don't know how much time she has left. So I just want to say a little prayer for Elaine. I don't know what will have happened by the time this show comes out, but right now, I know you used to work in hospice, Brownell, and I just want to say a prayer for her to be peaceful and comfortable and know that she is loved.
Yes.
And that she's on a journey that we can't control. But
Well, and there's some to quote from one of my children's book, it says, "We have friends who will meet us with warm open hands and music to greet us like grand marching bands." So that's what's awaiting her is friends, and their friends are like, come on, we're ready." So she'll be greeted with music and with friends. So that's my message.
Yeah, that one of my guests, Julie Ryan, wrote a book about when it's their time, anyone's time, the angels, they have a row of angels. She has pictures of it, the mother and then the mother, and it's a whole sequence of family members and a lot of the mother side, but I think I can't remember, but it's a whole thing that she'll be welcomed.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's all hard. It's hard saying goodbye. Feels better when we know that it ain't over when it's over.
Yeah.
There's more. And I remember when so just quick, when my father was dying and it was on his last days, and I actually helped him practice dying. And I held his hand and I said, okay, it's coming close. And if you want to go with me here, I'm here to help you, Transition. And I said, if not, let's just practice. And, and I just held his hand. He couldn't open his eyes at that point. But he still had touch and he still had hearing. And I was just like, okay, imagine you're leaving your body and then you hear the music and you can see the top of my head, that you're leaving. And I really felt him relax into that. And it was a really powerful moment. So it was my little moment.
And when he really went, you helped him also?
I didn't. He left the next morning and I was not there. And I think that's one of the things they taught us in hospice. Hospice training was one of the best things I've ever done. And but one of the things they taught us was that people will go when they're ready with whoever. Some people want everyone around them. Some people want no one around them. So that's just as personal a decision as far as who's with you at that moment. And some, they don't want it to be hard on you, right? Mm-hmm. So they may go when you're not there, and that's the choice that happens. But I gave him the choice that if he was ready, that I would be there. And he did leave the next day.
So do you think they really do decide when it's time?
Oh, yeah. I think that's all. I mean, I think that they're communicating on some level back and forth anyway. And I mean, I know with my uncle, we're going all the way off into a tangent
Yeah.
here, but it's really beautiful and important is that with my uncle, he actually flew in the Royal Air Force before the U.S. was in World War II. So he went over and flew for Britain because he was a pilot. And when he got cancer, and they were going to have a 50th anniversary for when they joined the RAF or whatever. And I mean, he was like, I'm going to live until that after that reunion. And he lived, however many months until the reunion. And then, not long after that is when he left. So, I think I think we have more influence on that than we might think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
There must be someone out there who needs to hear this today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
thank you. I feel calmer. Because
Yeah.
you want to do something, you feel like there's got to be something you can do. And that's the hard part, I think, is that it's not really up to me.
Right. Well, again, and that's where you have to also know it's if they go and you're not there, that's not personal to you. That's something that they've decided. Maybe they've done it as a gift to you because it might be too hard on you
Right.
to be there. And in some cases, they are there when you're there. So, it's just, we all go through it at some point, right?
Yeah. Oof. All right. So back to you. Thank you for that. So where did you grow up?
Lexington, Kentucky. I was born in Lexington. We moved away a bunch when I was little and went from place to place, and then we moved back when I was 10. So it's still kind of where home, feels like home. Both my parents were born there as well.
Mm. And are you there now?
No, I'm actually in a hotel, believe it or not. I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to live. I was living in Atlanta for many years, and then I went to Colorado and lived in Aspen for many years. And then went and started a nomadic life where I went to Italy for several months and then went to Tunisia and then came back to Atlanta and then went back to Aspen. And so I'm still trying to figure out where my next, location is. And where are you located, Hilary?
Wait, are you still in Atlanta now?
I'm in Atlanta now,
You
but
are, okay.
just because I'm, but in a hotel trying to figure out.
Yeah. Cool. I'm in Connecticut.
Okay.
So, Westport. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're born in Kentucky, and then did you go to college, and what did you study?
I went to the University of Georgia. I wanted to major in advertising, and Georgia, believe it or not, was third in the country at the time. So it's like either I go to Northwestern in Chicago or go to Missouri or go to Georgia, and Georgia sounded like more fun. And it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's where I got undergrad, and then I ended up getting my MBA a number of years later. So
where? There?
At Georgia State, actually.
Oh, okay.
And that's while I was working. That was executive MBA, so it was while I was working.
Wow. Okay. And then you said you worked in corporate marketing. Did you go right into that?
I did. Well, I went into advertising at first, and then I got into, and I did work for ad agencies. I also I kind of went into going more to the client side in terms of marketing. So I went I started at Long John Silver's, if we remember what Long John Silver's used to be. Yeah. And then I worked for a consumer products company, and then I worked for Coca-Cola, and for Kodak in marketing. So. And those don't sound like that much anymore, but it was so funny when I was at Coke, we were like, we're the number one brand in the world. And then I went to Kodak, we're the number one brand in the world. I don't think either one are. I mean, obviously Kodak is nowhere near what it used to be, but, so it's a different, you look at your life and you've lived many, many lives, right? Within, I've reinvented myself many times.
Yeah. So you were in-house, you worked at Coke.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So then how did you move to the cosmic wishing? Where did that come about?
Yeah, I've done some other businesses of mine, and I had a business. And while I was working on a business, I wrote my first book, was nonfiction book, about 20 years ago. And it's called 5 Reasons Why Bad Things Happen. So when people say everything happens for a reason, I can say, yeah, I literally wrote the book on it.
Wait, what is it?
It's called 5 Reasons Why Bad Things Happen.
Oh, okay. Right.
So,
Okay.
like, yeah, so everything happens for a reason. In fact, one of 5 reasons. And then I got into writing fiction and was doing some business stuff on entrepreneurial stuff on the side. And then I loved getting into fiction. I was writing more fiction, and then I was writing a fiction book that's sort of semi-autobiographical. And it's written in 4 parts because life kind of sometimes presents itself in parts. It's called A Love Story to the Universe. And the 4th part, I started writing about this magical world of wishes and wishing, like somewhere upstairs, and that this group up here is like when you make a wish, what happens in the system of how wishes are processed into this world. And I called it Estrella, and I had these wish fairies, and I had a cosmic wish cafe, and a comedy club, and all these kind of things. So I was just in this really fanciful, magical realism type of world. And then one night I was listening to a lecture on neuroplasticity. So just totally, that sometimes when I can't sleep, I listen to science lectures. And instead of putting me to sleep, it woke me up, and I was like, wait a minute, is there science in wishing? And that led to this huge, huge book where I researched over 70 different scientists, and just went kind of crazy over realizing that every time you make a wish, you engage over a dozen sciences. And it tripped me out. Yeah. So that's kind of led me down this road.
So you were writing A Love Story to the Universe, and it just happened to be about wishes, right? Or
Yeah, I was just creating this world of wishes. It was semi-autobiographical, and I was actually making a wish, and then that made me think, oh, let me write about wishes, like if what happens with wishes. And I started researching anthropology and the history of wishing and the rituals that we use involved in wishing, and then the brain and the neuroscience, the psychology, quantum physics, like all these cool sciences just kept popping up like whack-a-mole is the way I describe it.
And how was that recently? So you had AI? Like, how did you get these 20 or 70 different scientists?
Thank God for AI. Yes. And if you had talked to me a year ago, I would have said, I'm not using AI, never,
Right.
never, never. And then, but it would have taken me decades and maybe even lifetimes, because I'm a storyteller, not a scientist. Right. But in a way that's good, because if I was a scientist, I'd probably be in one discipline. And the fact that I'm in, I could research it from multiple. So I always tell people, if I ever say anything and somebody says, no, that's not true, or I see it a different way, I'm like, please tell me. I want to hear, because I'm still always learning and figuring out how are these sciences work. But I'm always adding to the list.
So I was trying to figure out how the marketing and advertising tied into this, but it's because you're a storyteller.
It's because I'm a storyteller. And also, I look at all of the things that I've done. It's funny, when I got to writing this book, it does feel like, and I think a lot of us get there, especially when I get to a certain age, is like all of a sudden everything I've ever done kind of leads to this. Like if I hadn't written that first nonfiction book, I couldn't have written some of the things that I wrote in here, because I talk about one of the things about reasons why bad things happen, obviously can affect whether your wishes come true or not, or how your wishes are manifested. So, I mean, there's a lot of connection there. And then when it talks to marketing, and I'm thinking,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you wrote 5 reasons why bad things happen, how did you know these 5 reasons? Like, did you just make them up, or like, where did they come from?
Well, you can ask any writer that, and it's like, where does it come from? And
Right.
one of my favorite quotes is a Bob Dylan quote, and he says, the song was there before I came along. I just wrote it down.
Okay.
Right.
So it just came to you.
So it did. I was meditating. I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and I thought, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason. And I just kind of meditating. It's like, oh, these are the reasons. And then I started researching, what are those reasons, and how do they apply, and how does all that work? And that led me into that world.
Can you give us one of those 5? I know you want people to get the book, but can you give us one reason why bad things happen?
I'll give you a couple. I'll give you one reason, and I'll give you the big reason that they all have in common. The one reason, because this one especially ties into the whole world of wishes and wishing and cosmic wishing. And I'll explain what a cosmic wish is versus, a regular wish. But is subconscious sabotage.
Mm.
And when I wrote that book and I realized it was just this big revelation, now it's kind of like, oh, of course it's obvious, but at the time it wasn't. When I realized the body was the subconscious, and that when you start understanding the three selves that you have, and this takes a belief system, and some people don't believe this, but to believe that you have a part of you that existed before you're born and will exist after you die, and then you choose a body and become you, then when you know to look at it that way, then you can realize that your superconscious or soul has its own consciousness, and that your body has a certain kind of intelligence and identity on its own. And when you know the science, now that I've gotten more into the even beyond the world into the science, your subconscious takes in literally millions of impressions a second, whereas your conscious only brings in like 50 or something. I mean, I think it's 11 million to 50 or some crazy number like that. So your body / subconscious is aware of so many things that your mind can't comprehend at the same time. And so sometimes your body is trying to protect you and prevent you from doing something, and our conscious mind doesn't necessarily see what that is. So sometimes the subconscious will sabotage us, and sometimes in a way that might feel bad, but it might lead us somewhere else that we need to go.
So when you say, I know in your book, which I was looking at last night, the new book,
Yeah.
the three selves. So you said there's the soul, which is the superconscious.
Yes.
And then there's the body, which is the subconscious. And where is the conscious?
The conscious is the blending of the two. That's the part that you and I are talking right now. Like our conscious mind are pretty much is what's communicating. So when you take your soul chooses a body and becomes you, that you is your conscious mind. Like that would be what Carl Jung would say the conscious, or Freud would say the ego, or whatever other language you want to use. The mind, body, spirit, the mind part of us.
Okay. The conscious is the mind.
Yes.
The body is the subconscious.
Yes.
Okay. And then the soul is the superconscious. Okay.
Right.
So the part that's sabotaging is the sub.
The subconscious can sabotage. So that's one reason bad things happen, is when we're not paying enough attention to our body. Our body is telling us, like, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
That's a simple one, is that a friend was a workaholic and she was going to work all weekend on a Labor Day weekend. And she goes out to get takeout food and she trips on a curb and twists her ankle and she's in bed all weekend. That was her body going, I am not working all weekend. I don't care what you do. I am going to make sure you rest, and I'm going to control the situation. And if instead she had said to her body, okay, what do you want to do this weekend? And get to know her body and say, okay, how about if we work all day Saturday, we're going to play all day Sunday? The body would have been like, okay, we're going to work all day Saturday. And if we get all this stuff done, we can have more fun Sunday. And that's when some people push themselves too hard and the body's saying, no, you're not listening to me. You're not giving me what I need, which is usually good food, exercise, fun, laughter, light, nature, all the things that we know that our body probably needs. So your body can sabotage you. So that was, and then the other thing that's the bigger thing that's important to know that all 5 reasons have in common is to get us to change something, that there's something that we're doing that's going down the wrong direction, and we need to change something. And so when you start realizing, okay, this bad thing has happened, what needs to change? That's the big message there.
Wow.
We got some heavy stuff already, don't we?
I know. I'm going, like, I had been on this, I just have to say this story. I'd been on this detox where I wasn't having coffee, and then I did another one where there was no coffee, and then I went back to coffee, and I was just like so happy to have it back. And I knew I was drinking too much, and it was like this, I just loved being bad, and I could feel my head going crazy and all this. And now my fingers are swollen and I have this internal itch, and I'm just like, every time I go to have a sip, it's like, so I'm thinking that's what it is telling me, okay, you've had your fun, now cut it out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Now, can I help you reframe that?
Sure.
Yeah. Is talking to your body, saying, okay, I feel this drive that you want me to have caffeine, right? And that we want to have coffee, and it's not decaf, I'm assuming.
No, I try to do half and half because,
Okay.
but it's more than one. It's like, when I was feeling like that's enough, I would have more just because it was like this thing of being bad. Like I had deprived myself all those months.
Well, that's really what happens. Like some people also can kind of relate to, like, they eat a donut and then they forget that they ate it. It's like they're not even conscious while they're eating it.
Yeah.
And the point is, in fact, I don't know if you remember that old TV show, Ally McBeal, but there's a scene where they're drinking coffee and they're like, every sip is just like, they're not like, you drink your coffee.
Yeah.
They're like, no, if you're going to drink your coffee, I mean, take that first sip and smell it and feel it and feel the warmth and taste it and like totally savor it. And that's really one of the big advice that I have in that book, but I also get into this in the wishing book, and also these activities that we're going to talk about is really getting to know your body and saying, what do you want? Because she may, first of all, the decadence is when they'll steal something when they think they want to get your attention. But in reality, she may not want that caffeine. She may want you to do something else,
And
right?
she is me.
She is your body. So I'm saying she is a different, and one of the big things to recommend, and I stole this from something called the Huna religion, which is basically psychology 101, but it says have a name for your body so that you can talk to her like she is a different person. And so you can say to her, what is it you want? What can make you happy today? And if it's the coffee, let's enjoy the coffee. Let's not sneak the coffee. Let's not chug the coffee. Let's just know that if we're going to get one cup, we're going to maximize that cup. We're going to love that cup of coffee. And if she needs something else for energy, like I went through something recently, and I have this thing, and I would eat breakfast, and I thought, okay, I need to cut calories. I'll eat less of what I normally eat for breakfast, right? So I'm cutting it down, but about 2 hours later, I'm hungry, and I'm craving something salty, and I'm thinking, what in the world? And I realized I just really needed the salt or the electrolytes. So I started drinking a few sips of Gatorade, and I'm not hungry anymore. So it was finding out from her, what are we really craving here? Because do I need the calories from some salty something? And the answer was no. But because I do exercise a lot, knowing that I had an imbalance and she was trying to help me rebalance. And so now I don't even have to drink a whole Gatorade. I drink a few sips, and that usually is what takes care of it. So when you have that communication with your body, then you can say, what is it? Instead of fighting with the body saying, you're making me mad, or you're making me feel this way or that way, say, okay, I'm hearing you. What can I do to nurture you? What can I do to give you what you want? How can we work this out together? I mentioned to you that I just gave a TEDx talk, and which was really exciting and fun for me. And one of the things I talk about in my TEDx talk is I say, imagine your body is like, imagine you're walking your dog. Okay. And the dog runs off. What do people do? They usually yell at the dog or chase the dog. Right? But what if instead you go, hey, it's fun over here. Let's go this way. The dog's going to go, yay, I'll go this way. And your body is the same way. Your body is like that puppy. So make it fun, saying, what can we do that's fun? Okay, I know that the caffeine is making us bloat. You don't want to be bloated. I don't want to be bloated. What are we going to do with this? And if I'm going to give you the caffeine, if she says she really wants the caffeine or the coffee, say, okay, if I do that, how can we not have these side effects? So it's about having communication on that level.
There's a part of me, like, I get it. I want to work with her.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that doesn't want to. I want to be bad. And I know where that comes from. It comes from my childhood, where everything was, why are you eating that? Why are you eating that? Why are you eating that? And it's like a rebellion.
Well, then enjoy it. Savor it. If you're going to do something, enjoy it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're going to do something with her, make sure she's in alignment. So if she really wants that coffee or that donut or whatever, I mean, every bite, you're going to go, oh my God, I love it. Every sip of that
Right.
coffee, you're
So
going to
part of it is being present, but
being
not
present and enjoying it and saying, okay,
not to the glee of being bad and like disobeying like whoever. I'm a little bit older now. It's not like someone's monitoring me, but do you know what I mean? There's a part of me that's going to enjoy that.
that's
All
right. And
the
you and
time
your
enjoy
body are going to go,
that.
ha, ha, ha. Instead of
Yeah.
fighting with your body and being bad against your body or your
Yeah.
body being bad against you, it's like, we're going to do this. And we know that maybe it's this, but and other people might judge this, or it might make this or this or this. But if you're going to be, if you're going to be bad, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it really does. I mean, in fact, when I first got this kind of awareness of this consciousness of the body and naming her and everything, I remember a friend was like watching me eat, and she said, I've never seen anybody eat so conscious of every bite. Every single bite was conscious. So every single sip of that coffee. One of my favorite activities in this whole thing of wishing is savoring.
Mm.
And it's not just gratitude. Gratitude's fine. Like, oh, thanks. Okay. Thank you, God. I have this, or thank you, whatever. I have that. And I'm happy I have. It's like, oh, this bed is so comfortable and warm and soft. And my covers are covering me. And I love where, like really, really, really savor whatever that is.
All right. Now, how did your travels?
It's like, I don't know.
No. I'm not. I'm always trying to connect the dots. Like, how did your corporate marketing? Okay, then you said you got it came to you the 5 reasons why bad things happen.
Yeah.
Like, was that out of the blue that you started writing, or was that like?
Yeah,
You know what
I went through a really tough time, and I was like, I've got to figure out why. I mean, there was just so many things were happening that were bad. And so, and I thought, at that point, I thought I didn't think I could ever write fiction, but I could write nonfiction, right? I had
Right.
the linear mind to be able to write nonfiction, but I had to be connected on some level to be able to get to those 5 reasons.
Yeah.
To be able to do the research to back that up, going, okay, if I'm going to say these are the reasons, what is the subconscious? How does the subconscious work? I had to do all that kind of research for that.
And how did you even know to go there to the you know what I mean? Like, here you are in marketing, Coca-Cola. What was the other one you said? Kodak.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I guess I don't know all the bad stuff that happened, but now all of a sudden you're looking at conscious and subconscious and writing a book. Like,
yeah, I mean, I
what
got
was
into
that?
the woo-woo stuff right in the when I was in corporate. I got into some of the woo-woo stuff.
Okay. So this wasn't brand new. Okay.
I
So
wasn't just completely, delving
you
into
were-
that.
So you were, because I always ask people, like, how did you switch? I mean, it's a big switch, and they say I was called to it or whatever, or I felt the nudge. So I'm always like, okay, what does that look like on the court? And they said they were drawn to it. So you were drawn to woo woo, even, and you can call it
Shirley
whatever you want.
Maclaine, and Richard Bach, are 2 of the early authors that kind of got me into, okay, wait a minute, my mind is expanding.
Okay.
And
So you were already
in this expansive place.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, that's why I did, honestly, to weave it back to the hospice. One of the reasons that I did the hospice work was because I just felt like I had no fear of death, and therefore I could be a good comfort to people who were going through that. That it was like, okay, I have a pretty good idea what's next. And so I wasn't out there telling people what I thought, but I just felt like I could be kind of a grounding force because I could have a different perspective on it than other people might have. So.
And how did, and your no fear of death came from what? From studying
From
that?
all the exploration of reading all the books and looking into different topics and, like I said, Shirley Maclaine, she had a mini series out in the 80s, dating myself, but then, and then Richard Bach and Illusions and Bridget Gus Forever was one of my favorite books. And so that opened up this whole idea of, I grew up in an Episcopalian, household, and then just kind of, which was for me a really good foundation because it was very open-minded to, it wasn't like I had to switch. I could just kind of expand and pivot a little outside of that. And that just opened up that whole world. And then, like I said, I wrote nonfiction, and then I thought I'm going to try fiction. And I had no idea I could do that. And I just loved it. And so I've written several novels. I came out with a trilogy a year and a half ago, and then I wrote this Love Story to Universe semi-autobiographical book. Came out with that about 6 months ago. So done kind of all of it. So the logical mind and the creative mind, I think, are the two things that really do help me in this mindset of doing something like Wishes and Wishing, because undergrad was advertising. That's under the journalism school. So the whole idea of exploring and researching and all that was also natural to me. And then the whole, how do you weave that into storytelling? What does stories have to do with that? And what is this perspective of writing and creating stories? How does that work?
Mm. Wow. Okay. Woo. So, all right. So I think we've gotten to the part of the wishes. We're going to take our commercial break, and then we're going to really get into the cosmic wishing and find out what that's all about. All right. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
What if school could be a place where every child feels safe to be themselves? Right now, kids are growing up in a complicated world. They're learning how to listen, how to care, and how to find their voice. Kokori's daily digital calendar of research-backed lessons helps children build confidence, empathy, and resilience through joyful play-based learning. When children feel connected and supported, they don't just learn more, they grow into kinder, braver humans. Kokori, helping kids grow together.
Hey, it's Hilary from the Getting Real with Hilary show. Life can be messy, raw, and real. And sometimes we're afraid to feel vulnerable. We're afraid to be that real self. Well, that's exactly what the Getting Real with Hilary show and Getting Real movement is all about. Being our true selves. Every week, I bring you stories of transformation, authenticity, and hope. People getting real with their struggles, their faith, and their breakthroughs. So don't miss a thing. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter today. You'll get stories, links to everything new, and how to create a life you love every week directly to your inbox. You can also find my books on Amazon. My courageous and riveting memoir, The Second Piece of French Toast, in case you feel stuck in your life and want to get inspired. How I came out about my no sex life and my marriage, and my second book, Real Talk. That one will get you speaking up in ways you've been too afraid to do so, and really creating amazing freedom. And my third book, How to Stop Fixing Yourself and Start Having Fun, the name is called Your Bullshit is Your Blessing. Find links to everything and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Getting Real with Hilary, and you'll find the links in the header. So, visit. And you can also visit gettingrealwithhilary.com, because the real you is worth it and wants to come out. And thank you, as always, to our sponsors. You see their commercials, and you also see the logos going underneath. Thank you to everyone who makes this show possible. We appreciate your generosity and support. And now we're going to find out more about cosmic wishing with Brownell Landrum. So cool. Okay, so you wrote a love story to the universe,
Yes.
and you just got the idea about wishes there, and then you started learning about the science, right? That's what you've already said. So, okay. So tell us what you want us to know about that. There's so much there. Yeah.
There is so much there, and it's really fun, because I think a lot of people might have a perspective of wishes, and that And I'm hoping to expand that perspective and have people maybe think about their wishes a little differently. And a couple of things that I'm going to tell you about that I think are important, and then we can expand from there is one is the difference between a wish, a prayer, and a goal. And then also telling the difference between what's a wish and what I call a cosmic wish.
Now, can I just say, it's just on my mind to say, I had a guy like a month or so ago who did a whole thing on promises, which I guess is different because the promise is something I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'd have to really noodle on that. I don't know that I have an immediate response to that, but maybe with what I tell you that you can see if it weaves in because it came to you for a reason, so maybe it will weave in.
Yeah, and he was saying rather than make a wish, like, when you're blowing out your birthday cake, make a promise.
Okay. Well, let's
different.
Yeah, let's leave that kind of over here in the corner.
Yeah, let's put it
put up here on this shelf, and then we
good.
can come back.
I just wanted to get rid of it so I could come back to it.
Yeah, because who knows where it's going to weave back in. Well, and also it's really just to put a context to that. So many of the things that have happened in our conversation today have been interesting because I might, before I started doing all this research, I might have put them in a woo-woo category, like we're getting a message from here, or some part of our consciousness is telling us this, or whatever. And that's also possibly true. And it's also possibly true that our brain is wired to do that based on science. And there's science behind the reason that came to you. So that's what I find really fun is that, if there's anything that I love about this the most, is that you can be seriously skeptical or into science, and you can be serious religious, and guess what? Wishes cover all of that. Everybody unites. Everyone, everywhere around the world wishes from the beginning of time. It's something every culture has wishing rituals.
Wow.
Everywhere. Collective wishing rituals where people wish together were key drivers of survival since the dawn of humanity. I mean, this is something that we all can connect with. And so some of the stuff we're talking about the conscious and superconscious, some of that you can just look at from a science standpoint. Look at Freud and Jung and just deal with it from a psychology perspective. Some of it you can go, okay, no, I want to take it even further into the metaphysical or the spiritual or the religious. Great, if that works for you. If not, you can stick with more of the scientific answers, right? Some of these things we might say and go, okay, this is very much some sort of spiritual dimension, but then there's quantum physics that can explain things like non-locality and retrocausality and all these other things that can be explained, that science is starting to explain all this. We're starting to pull all this together. And that to me is what's the most exciting, is that we might all be might be looking the same thing, have a different language to describe it, but it can be the same thing. So let me, the shelf is there for the promises thing, is that the difference between a wish, a prayer, and a goal. So let me set that foundation because I think that really helps, is that a goal is something we can control. We can set a plan. We can make it happen. I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to run a marathon, or I want to, get an advanced degree or something. You set a plan. You've got your details. It's in your control. Prayers are usually for things that are way outside of your control. It's when there's nothing more you can do. You've done your part, you release it, and you ask for help from some sort of force or energy outside of your control. And then wishes, I think, are beautiful because they're kind of this common ground and a meeting place, and also a way to expand both. They include the things in your control, which may be where the promise thing comes, right? Is maybe making sure your brain is engaged with that control aspect. And it also includes the things that are outside of your control. And I call that cosmic collaboration, is that when you know that there's only so much you can do and that there is some help that has to come from outside. And that can be a spiritual component, or it can be, like I said, a quantum physics, or it can be other people, can be all these different forces. But this, like, I can't change the world, but I can open up the doors to have other people come in and join and expand from there, kind of thing. So that's where I think wishes are beautiful. And then what I talk about, the difference between a wish and a cosmic wish, is when you apply science. So we all have a wish. We can make up that birthday wish or whatever, and blow out those candles. when you start adding the science, that's when you, and then, like, for example, you can add anthropology, that adds a ritual. What's your ritual? Right? If you repeat your wish every day, then you're adding neuroplasticity because you're training your brain to remember that wish. And if you want to look at it from a spiritual point of view, you can say yes. And you're also reminding whatever that force is outside of you, I really want this thing. I really wish for this. This isn't just a fleeting one in and my one out the other. And then you're also starting to train your brain to look for those solutions, right? And there's cool neuroscience, things like the default mode network and the reticular activating system, parts of your brain that help you along the way. So that's where it starts getting really, really interesting, is the more you understand the different sciences, the more you can get control over your wish. You can start understanding levels of motivation, levels of energy that you're bringing into it. And one of the principles that's important to me in making a wish is that it follow what I call the 3 Ps, that it's peaceful, positive, and purposeful. Because and it's not just how you make your wish. So when you're making your wish, make sure you're making it from a peaceful place and a positive place and a purposeful place. And it's also what you're wishing for. Is it something that's peaceful? Is it wishing for something and not against something else? Like, for example, I have a children's book that I came out with, and they talk about the 3 Ps, and they add the science. They take a wish and then they add science, and it's really cute. And on the positive one, they add the science into that, and that includes, the polyvagal system and all these different aspects of positive. Because with your brain, if you're wishing against something, like I wish this would stop, your brain is going to be looking at the thing you want to stop. That's not going to stop the thing you want to stop. And the children's book, the before wish is a preteen girl, and she's in front, and it has a desk full of books, and her little sister's trying to get her attention. And she says, I wish my little sister would leave me alone. I'm too busy. Right? Well, she adds the good science, the positive science to it. And she says, I wish I had more time for my sister. And she's going to find time for her sister.
Oh,
yeah. It's really sweet.
So there were, when you talk about, I don't know if you're talking about it, but I'm going to say it this way, like, that the wish has to be for the highest good.
Yeah, well, and that's
want to wish
purposeful, right? Is that it's not just benefiting you, it's benefiting others.
Yeah.
So that ties to the purposeful. And in fact, in the children's book, the example I have is the before picture is a little boy, and he's got a towel around his neck, and he's looking in the mirror, and he says, I wish to be a superhero. And he sees his reflection in the mirror. But then when he makes it, and you add the science of purposeful to it, and there's mirror neurons and all kinds of cool stuff that happens with a purposeful wish. He says, I wish to be a superhero so I can help people. And then the reflection in the mirror, all the people he's helping and all the people who want to help him. So when you're making a purposeful wish, it's for the highest good. It's also knowing that if I'm telling you a wish and you're sharing a wish with me and people are in on it, then it creates something called mirror neurons where they're buying into that. They see that collective vision. Martin Luther King had that dream. That was a collective vision, positive wish where everyone, and purposeful, where everyone could see this thing together. So that's the kind of vision you want to get, because then all of a sudden you don't have just 1 + 1. You have 1 plus the multiplier effect, which is some weird number. Science gets into some.
Right.
It's not just like you and I wishing together. It's you and I plus this little factor that multiplies it more. And then you add 4 people and it's even more.
Okay. When you first started telling me, like, because we were going to have a conversation after, and I needed to find a wish, and I was all worried, what about the right one, and blah, 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 realizing as I'm sitting here, as you're talking, okay, that's all from the ego trying to get it right and trying to get someplace and whatever. Because we just learned about this through Neil Donald Walsh in our spiritual mastery course. Like, okay, and he was talking about purpose, not wishes, but I'm just going to say.
Purpose is one of the 3 Ps.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's an ego purpose, like, okay, I want to get right, I want to get famous or whatever, I want to have enough money, because there's not enough. That's from the ego. Now, when as I was sitting here and you were talking about that, what I realized is that my soul purpose is peace and ease. Peace, ease, like just saying it gives me peace and abundance.
Yeah, and the word wish, just think about saying the word wish itself. It's like a mantra. Wish is this beautiful energy.
Yeah, like peace, just peace.
Like peace, like wish.
Forever. But then when you're saying, okay, not just for you, then it's like really for everyone. That we can
That's when the
all-
purposeful is like, okay, then how are you helping others with that? Right. So, yeah, just so people know, because we might be airing these and doing these differently, because we're going to we'll do a different thing where we're going to take a wish and then we're going to add science to it. And then we're going to do an activity, science-based activity for it. And we're going to show the evolution of the wish and how to do exactly what you're talking about. So, for example, I was working with somebody and they said, I wish to have $1 million. Or somebody might say, I wish to have the Ferrari in my driveway. And I get into this in the book is that, okay, why do you want the Ferrari? We get into the wants versus needs, and that's an important aspect of it. And we could go down lots of different tunnels on that. But
yeah.
But that goes all in the book. And also it's like, okay, if he says, I wish for $1 million, well, what is that $1 million for? Is it for my kid's education? Is it for somebody's operation? And he was like, no, I have this vision of this huge thing that can really help the world, and it can bring in this and this. And then all of a sudden, do you realize that by saying all this, you're getting to all these people watching and listening to say, oh yeah, I'm behind that. I want that too. I want to help him. And so it's no longer about a piece of paper with a 1 and a bunch of zeros on it. Right? It's about this common vision that we can all work together, and it could be even bigger because you've been able to take that $1 million and turn it into a vision of what you want to do with something. His was with something beautiful and renewable and clean and fresh and for the world and help the planet. So, I mean, it was like this beautiful vision. Why reduce it to $1 million? That doesn't mean anything,
Right. But that's where we start. Like, yeah, if I would say, yeah, I want to have, I want to have my show get famous or sponsors or whatever. No, that's not really what I want. I really want to have peace and ease. I want to stop worrying. I want to stop being
that's against after what we wish for, right? It's not in the positive realm. Stop worrying. It means you're going to keep worrying because you're going to be focused on worrying.
Right. But it's the peace. Well, like, why do I want peace? Because I don't know.
Well, can I expand it further?
Please.
Okay. And it definitely guide me if I'm not going the right direction, because this is what is your wish, it's not mine, right?
Yeah.
Is that you're doing this show and you've got really amazing topics and you're an incredible interviewer and ability to draw people, not only to be on your show, but to also listen, right? So your show has this beautiful purpose. And what you probably want, I'm putting words in your mouth, what you probably want is to reach as many people as possible. And you want that to be easy. And you want that to flow, and you want the right people to come in and be inspired, and be inspired to keep listening and to share and subscribe and all those things that we hope that people will do for our shows. And that can bring in sponsors, because sponsors are going to come as a natural flow of the fact that you're really helping people and people recognize that and they're drawn to your show. And whatever is not easy, then that you want to be more ease, right? Is then let's wish it to this, that it's going to flow effortlessly, and that the energy is going to flow, and that the right people are going to be sharing, and that they can share that same vision. Because if the people listening find out now, oh, I didn't know Hilary really it mattered that much for me to share it. I should be sharing this. Why am I not sharing her show with more people? Right? Then they're getting the vision with you. Then they see that purpose together, and they know that this is important message to give to the world, and that they may not have even thought about sharing. But if they know they're part of that vision with you, saying, yes, this is the message. And the more you can be clear on this is the message and the world that you want to give the world through your show, then that will flow everything that way. And then what's worry? You're in ease, you're in growth, you're in support, you're in organic love. And that feels better. So I totally put words in your mouth. So you can totally change me, but does that help at least give an idea of how you can shift context? I guess is the right word.
Yeah, it's like I can't even there's a part of me that, it's just the ego side. Wants to get it right, doesn't think this is working, thinks like all that, it's never enough. It's the six things of the ego: doubt, comparison, worry of the shame of the past, worry of the future, and I forget what the other one is. But, it's all the ego side. And so really to step into the soul purpose side, as you were describing it, ease, effortlessness, people just share organically, and
Yeah.
stepping into that's the message. It says it on the intro. Our birthright is joy, purpose, passion, love, like that's our, to step into that. That's the message of the show.
Yes, and I think
And-
one thing,
Okay.
if you're like me, one thing that I've been going through, even literally as of today, because it's all still a process. Like, I mean, I may know some of these things, but I'm still learning. We're all learning. And that's why I'm saying if there's people listening to about science and I say something that they want to expand on, please comment. Tell me. I'm still wanting to learn. And one of the things today, I was like, literally in a meditation this morning, thinking, why am I spending time looking at the things that I lack to fill a gap
Mhm.
instead of being like, but I have this, this, and this. Why isn't that enough? And I do think we're trained to keep expanding more when we need to do more savoring. Like I said, that bed
Mhm.
is so great. I mean, why do I, I have this quiet space and a very comfortable place to sleep. And I have, this great food or whatever it is, these great friends. Why am I spending too much time looking at the things that are missing? It's like we keep grinding. We have a pie and then we keep making the pie bigger so we can keep adding more stuff to it instead of realizing that what we have is pretty darn great. So I do think that we have kind of that training, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to expand, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to reach more people and inspire more people. And
Right, but not,
know,
yeah, but when I'm like you were saying, when I know I'm in the ego part, it's never enough. And, my stuff is stupid and I don't even know why you bother and you're embarrassing yourself. Like, it's just always there. So to step into the other place where it's all just beautiful, you know what I mean? Like all that noise disappear. And, someone, I just had a Akashic reader on the show, the ego can't survive in love. So like you were saying, savor it, savor your, that's love. That's a different energy than it's never enough. And why are you embarrassing yourself? It's just different. So do you know what I mean? So it's stepping into that.
and that's where, again, going back to the wish and the science, right?
Yeah.
Is that, you've got peaceful, positive, and purposeful. First of all, peaceful.
Mhm.
Those things don't lie in peaceful. Those things
Right.
aren't compatible with peaceful, right?
Right.
And that's a physiological aspect. You can get into a peaceful place. Even if all you're doing is once a day wishing to be peaceful, positive, and purposeful, don't even add a wish to it, but just those three things that you're going to spend 1 minute a day, all those things are going to start going away, because what also happens is that neuroplasticity says if you repeat something every day for 8 weeks, some research says 4 weeks, some will say 6. Most solid research says 8. If you have a ritual, guess what? That's where wishes are so cool, because you're going to have a certain time of day or a certain thing. It's maybe every time you're brushing your teeth, or you see a mirror or a time on the clock, or you see a shooting star or first star of the night, or whatever ritual you want it to be. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to take a moment to be peaceful, positive, and purposeful. And your brain is going to be trained to looking for peaceful, positive, and purposeful. And then you're going to be starting to look for more ways to be more peaceful and more positive and more purposeful. And all those other things go away because you're trained your brain to keep looking for those things that are lacking. Instead of wipe that out, your brain will rewire. I mean, no matter how old you are, we're learning with this neuroplasticity research that your brain will keep doing that.
All right,
And there's
Brownell, I hate to interrupt because I know you're on a roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a minute and a half, and I want people to be able to find you, and they can read your book to find out more. I mean, we haven't done justice to this, but anyway, you have a lot of books and a lot of places where they can go find you.
I have a lot of books. I write a lot of, if you're into, metaphysical books, I have a trilogy that's about this famous couple from history who's reincarnated today. So it's a big mystery love story thing. And then of course, The Art and Science of Wishing, Cosmic Wishes is a children's book. And I'm coming out with a new show called Cosmic Wishes. So look for that in my YouTube channel and look for my TEDx talk.
Yeah. And how do they find you?
I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world, so it's pretty easy.
Is it brownelllandrum.com? Is it
brownelllandrum.com, and you can find me on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and mainly YouTube is where I'd like most people to probably find me.
Okay, brownelllandrum.com. Okay, we'll have that in the notes. In the last 30 seconds, if you had your wish and everyone was wishing, what would the world look like?
The world would be more peaceful, positive, and purposeful. That's the simplest, most obvious answer.
Mm.
And what kind of world would we have if we started doing that? Be beautiful.
Wow. Thank you. I just got peaceful, positive, and purposeful.
Yeah, every day. Make sure you remind that every day.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode. I started getting real with Hilary when I discovered that I was a people-pleasing, pleasant phony and wanted to be more of my real self. We can grow together if you will like the show, subscribe to my channel, and share this episode with your friends and family so that we can have a world that's more real.